Hello and welcome to our 30 Under 30 live chat. My name is Wes Lomnicki, 30 Under 30 alumnus and current assistant coach at Elmhurst College in Illinois. I'll be your moderator for today's discussion. Today's panel, we have 30 Under 30 current participants that'll be discussing different tips and experiences about recruiting athletes in the college game. Before we get started with the questions, let's actually go ahead and meet our 30 Under 30 participants. First, we have Christina Corona.
Hello.
Christina, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Christina Corona. I'm the head women's soccer coach at Austin College. I've been there for 2 years. I'm entering my 6th season as a head coach. I spent the previous 3 years at University of Dallas.
Fantastic. Next, we have Crystal Seidel.
Hi, I'm Crystal Seidel. I'm the associate head coach here at the University of Minnesota. I've been a part of this program for 6 seasons as a coach and 1 season as a player. So it's my 7th season here at the U of M.
Fantastic. And lastly, we have Jonathan Shear.
Hey guys, John Shear here, assistant coach of the University of Delaware men's soccer team. I played at UD from 2007 to 2011, and this is now my 4th year coaching, and originally from West Windsor, New Jersey.
Thanks, John. Another reminder, if any viewers today have any questions during today's live chat, please feel free to tweet them by using the hashtag NSCAALive. We'll get started with some of our questions that we have pre-organized. We have a fantastic panel here, excited to really hear the opinions of a lot of different college coaches at different levels and different points in their career. So the first question, I'll go ahead and propose it to Crystal. As a coach, what do you look for in potential recruits beyond just skill?
So we kind of break it up into two things, the on-the-field stuff and then the things we look for once they get here on campus. So the first thing we look for on the field is their work rate and athleticism in addition to their skill. That's something we can track and we rate for every single person that we see. And then the things that are a little bit trickier to find are competitive drive and capacity to learn and response to adversity. So those are kind of the biggest things. So what happens if they maybe miss an opportunity to create a pass? Do they get back in it right away? Do they throw some theatrics at it and takes them a while to get back in the game? How do they respond if a goal gets scored on? Do they start yelling at their teammates? That kind of stuff. The competitive drive piece, you can see a little bit on the field, but a lot of that comes from talking to club coaches. So that's usually one of the first questions we ask beyond once we see a player that we like, we'll call their club coach and we'll say, where do they rank on your team in competitive drive? And if they're not in the top third, then we don't bother because those kids don't end up making it at the next level in our opinion. So that's kind of on-field stuff. And then once they get on campus, it's a lot about just how they interact with people, how they carry themselves, how they interact with their future teammates. Are they respectful? The shy kids, that's not an issue. It's more, if they go the other way, are they disrespectful or acting like they're too good for the university, that kind of stuff. And then another thing is how their parents interact. Are they allowing the kids to have ownership because they're not going to be there, or are they trying to run the whole show? And how their parents handle different other aspects of the visit. So those are kind of the big things we look for beyond just basic skill.
Thanks, Crystal. I think that's some fantastic points you make, specifically the competitive level. What type of work rate do they have on and off the field, and how it would translate to the college level, because we all know that's something that has to be a given if you're coming in as a freshman. Fantastic. Would anybody else like to chime in with that?
I think that's a great answer.
Sorry, go ahead, Christina.
I'm sorry. I said that I think that's a great answer. I think for me specifically, like she had mentioned, it's how they work off the ball. How do they respond when they have a bad touch? When a coach gives them instruction, how do they react? And so there's so much more than just the technical and tactical aspects of it. It's what character are they bringing into my squad? And so that was a great point. I really like that answer.
Good. Oh, fantastic. And the last thing I'll say on the competitive drive part, from my experience, I think 9 out of 10 times when a freshman, no matter how good they are, comes into your program, they usually come from a club team or a high school team where they are the best player on that team. And how do they translate to now going into a college program where they're definitely not that type of player anymore, where there's players 3-4 years older than them that have that much more experience than themselves? And that's where the competitiveness, that's where the work ethic comes in, I think, and Crystal did a good job highlighting that point. So fantastic. We'll move on to our next question. It's going to be actually open to the group, so anybody that'd like to chime in for this question, feel free. What are the challenges of recruiting at different division levels? We have multiple division coaches here from the NCAA, so feel free to open it up regarding your specific level.
I can jump in here. For us at the Division I level, on the men's side, we're fully funded now. We have 9.9 scholarships. About 4 or 5 years ago, we weren't fully funded, though. So we had about 6 and even a little bit less. So I think resources are always some of the challenges for each university. Now we're fortunate to be fully funded, but you have to kind of make do with what you have and be creative in that regard. We're also a state school, so financially, the packages we tend to give out financially aid-wise is a little bit less than what a private school might hand out. So all those, mainly resources issues are what we have to keep in mind.
Very good, thank you. That's a great point. When kids are getting recruited, what division they're looking at, you have to be wary of what type of scholarship opportunities are there. He said he's a Division I fully funded program. I'd say less than half are fully funded. So it makes a big difference for kids as they get recruited to understand what type of money is available for them to be going into school. So, different situations all across the board. Anybody else like to chime in with that?
I can comment on Division I on the women's side. For us, I think one of the biggest challenges is because we do have the resources, we have every resource that we could possibly need, in my opinion, is the early recruiting. It's just getting earlier and earlier, and there's so many issues that go with the early recruiting, and it's one, just being able to identify players that young and recognizing what their potential looks like 4 years away, and then not having control of how they train. I mean, you can guide them to some extent, but you put so much of that faith into someone else of getting them ready for that when they're that young. And then, two, just the restricted communication, it forces it to be more of like an agent situation where we're going through club coaches to get them to call us or talking to them about what we think about kids instead of being able to say it to their face more often than not. And so it just becomes tricky because you don't know how that message gets relayed through a third person. You also don't know if their bias maybe plays a role. So maybe the coach has a lot of influence and they have relationships with other coaches that you almost have to spend more time bonding with club coaches than you do with actual prospects.
That's a great point. And from my perspective as a Division III coach, one of the things we're noticing now, being a regionally competitive, we like to think nationally competitive program, we're talking to young males at a time where the academy structure in this country has really taken hold of the development of the top tier players. If we're trying to talk or recruit a high-level academy player that maybe isn't getting the Division I phone calls or attention that he would hope for, the challenge at Division III level is to convince him, hey, and many times this is the same quality of soccer you see at a lot of Division I schools. How do you get your mindset off of being so set on a Division I roster spot rather than maybe becoming a Division III player and having an opportunity right away to step on the field and be an impact player. So that's kind of the struggle at Division III level from a recruiting perspective. And what we've really tried to do to eliminate that problem is just create a better relationship with the kid from day one. If you're at his practices, if you're at his games, if you're talking to his coaches, you can really help these kids get an understanding of, being a Division III athlete isn't necessarily less glamorous than the Division I teams that are out there. So that's one of the struggles we fight, but we feel like we got to try to do a good job of still bringing in that high caliber player. So fantastic. We'll move on to the next question, and we'll pitch this out to Christina. How can high school and club coaches help to better market their players to college coaches?
Yeah, I think this is a great question. Honestly, I believe that high school and club coaches can better market their players by becoming more aware of the level of play in the divisions across the board. So sometimes I believe coaches have the mentality that all my players are going to play Division I when, you know, all their players technically may not be Division I caliber. And so finding out the different levels, what divisions, what we offer, scholarship-wise, because where I'm at, I'm also at Division III. We offer scholarship money. It's just not based upon their athletic ability. It's all about their academic talents. And so if club coaches and high school coaches can kind of just become more aware of what opportunities are really out there, I think that will really market players and give them better opportunity in the long run. I also believe that club and high school coaches need to stress the importance of a great GPA earlier in their high school careers. Not, you know, junior or senior year, but freshman year, saying, hey, GPAs are important because everyone's looking for a 4.0 student. I mean, honestly, you know. So, and in that, just really being able to have these players create a top 10 list and say, hey, what are your top 10 schools and how can I help you get to where you want to be? And so by allowing these student athletes to create these lists and contacting and reaching out to these coaches, I think it's also important for them to teach the ethics of how to contact a college coach.
Right.
I can't tell you how many emails I received and it says, hey, coach, come see me play. And it's like that blast email that's sent out to everyone attending the event. And the grand scheme of it, I don't know about my colleagues, but I delete those emails. I mean, I want kids that are honestly invested in and show an interest in my school. And so by teaching and how to send these detailed, personalized emails to the college coaches, that just shows us that they are interested in our programs. And the last piece to that, I think, is keeping your roster updated on gotsoccer.com. I think that's so important because when I received those tournament packets at the beginning of the tournament, honestly, sometimes they don't have contact information for some of those players, and that may be the bridge between the gap my first point of contact. And so making sure those rosters are updated and keeping those up to date, and I think those things can really help.
Fantastic answers. I appreciate the point you bring up about actually the ethics and how to communicate with college coaches. I think players from clubs that are fortunate enough to be coached by current college coaches or your coaches that have played at the college level have the benefit of, you know, maybe having a sit-down talk with their coach at some point and maybe doing a mock phone call with them. These coaches can help them by asking some of the questions that a college coach might ask, because if there's one thing that, you know, I've experienced at Division III level when I'm calling kids, not many are very comfortable on the phone with you. The ones that are, they obviously get a leg up in, wow, this kid's spot on the phone, man. He was definitely invested in the phone call. He was able to answer my questions succinctly and be able to, you know, express his thoughts. That's a big thing from the recruiting process. So if club coaches and high school coaches can kind of verse their players and being able to do that a little bit better, I think that's definitely a step forward in the right direction. So, Christina, great answers. Anybody else would like to chime in with that question?
Yeah, I have one thing. Be a follow-up email, not the initiator, because we have some that initiate that, and then it's we wonder if they want it for the kid more than the kid wants it for themselves. So make sure you're more of a, you know, just reiterating their interest and then telling them from your perspective what they have to offer versus being the initiator.
Fantastic. Great stuff. We'll move on to our next question. This one's going to be for Jonathan. What are some of the keys to transitioning these athletes, incoming freshmen, once they become freshmen in your program?
Yeah, there's a lot of areas where the high school players, when they enter college, that they have to transition from strictly a soccer perspective. There's a physical transition that they have to go through. They're competing against guys that are much older now, whereas in high school they might be playing against players that are 15, 16, or 17. In college they might be competing against players that are 21, 22, and 23. With that, the speed of play is going to increase. So as a staff, we just try to, in the beginning of preseason, implement and design sessions that will allow the players to kind of see what the next level's like and get them assimilated to that. Also, with soccer, there's a mental component that they need to transition as well. most of these players that are coming at the Division I level are coming as superstars of their club or academy or high school teams, and now they might not play for their first 2 years, so they need to come and manage their expectations of what they need to do on the field. And the way we try as a staff to help them with that is just being upfront and honest with them when they come on their unofficial and official visits in high school, and let them know what we look for in players and how they can find their way on the field. Other than soccer, there's other areas they have to transition as well. Academically, the class load will be, more rigorous, and the content in which they're learning is going to be a little bit tougher than what they're learning in high school. So as most colleges do, we have a good academic support staff in our athletic facilities that helps them schedule classes, tell them what is important in terms of their degree and what's going to keep them eligible as well. And then finally, just the other little nuances of their life, nutrition, sleeping habits. These are all details that we want them to get right. So we have a lot of group and individual meetings to make sure that a lot of the new guys are acclimated to the college life well. But we also have and develop a pretty good culture in our locker room where the upperclassmen can kind of put their arm around the younger guys and try to show them the way from what they experience.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I think you made two real solid points that stood out in my head. Number one, I think, is the nutrition side of things. I think kids coming into a college environment not having mom cook meals for them every night anymore, not having a sit-down dinner with their family every night. They're kind of on their own for a lot of times the first time. So how do they transition to be able to take care of themselves from a nutrition standpoint? And the other side of that is also, I think your first semester in college is also your first season as a college athlete from a soccer perspective. You don't have the benefit of a basketball player or a baseball player getting the transitional semester where they get used to their class schedule, get used to the routine of college life. You've got to come in as a soccer player kind of ready to start from the word go. And that's a tough thing for a lot of freshmen as they come in, because they're getting hit with class load of, like you said, things that they haven't experienced before, and also the rigors of freshman year of college soccer. So I think that's an important thing that maybe coaches over the summer months can help to try to prepare their incoming students for. Anybody else on the transition to college sports? Cool, excellent. Well, again, we've got some really solid questions from some of our viewers coming in, and I will propose these to the group as I read them. One of our viewers has asked the question: what is your advice to a player in his or her sophomore year as they start the process of identifying interesting colleges?
I would say, and reiterate the make it personal. We don't want a blanket email as much as you don't want a camp response only from us. So making sure you're doing research about the school, about what you actually like about it, so you can engage in an actual conversation. And then make sure you reach out more than once, because there's a lot of emails that go through, and the more you put your name out there without being annoying and every single day, the better chance you have of us getting to it at some point.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's really important to do your research and to know what type of school you want to go to. There's a college home for everybody, honestly, and so in that, I think that it's important to understand that regardless of if it's Division I, Division II, or Division III, make a list of schools that you want to go to, and really, honestly, after that list, contact those coaches as often as you can and get them your schedule and get them to see you play, and honestly, you just have to find there's a place for you. There really is. There's a place for everybody. So just do your research and figure out what type of school you want to go to, what location you want to be in, and what type of school you want to be at, and there, you'll find the perfect place for you.
Good insight. John, did you have something?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, like they both said, I think just doing your research academically and what you might be interested in studying in college, and look up to those schools no matter if they're Division I, II, or III. And I also think the beauty of technology nowadays is it's much easier to tape games and make little highlight clips. And at the end of the day, the biggest part of our job is to identify talent, and even if it might be a 3 or 4 minute video of some touches, it could pique coaches' interest enough to come and try to see you play live. So there's a lot of different avenues you can go about and trying to get coaches to come see you play. But at the end of the day, just be timely in your response and reach out to as many schools as you can.
Good stuff, John. And when this question came across my screen, the immediate thing that popped into my head that we've been telling kids over the last couple of years is you'd be surprised how many student athletes are looking at schools and haven't seen that team play live or haven't been to different games. From our perspective as a D3 institution, you get a lot of kids saying, well, I want to be a Division I player. Well, my first thing is, have you been to an upper-level Division III game? Have you seen the level of what you'd be competing with? That's a huge thing that kids in high school can really start to do. Depending on where they live in the country, there's good soccer everywhere. Division I, II, III, NAIA, whatever you want to talk about. So, you know, it's important for these kids to go out and see games live so that they can get an idea of what they'd be getting themselves into from a Division I, II, or III standpoint, and so on, so forth. So that's one of the big things I pitch to kids. Good stuff. One more question from one of our viewers. Open it up to everybody, obviously. How valuable is it for you as a coach to see a prospective player at one of your college prospect camps? It's a good one, topical.
I can jump in here. As you mentioned, Wes, the academies changed the way a lot of the Division I schools are recruiting. You know, a lot of our time is spent at academy games, and for us, if we're able to see players live more than once, we don't make it necessary for them to come to ID camps. For us, in our opinion, ID camps should be attended to schools that haven't been able to see you play live more than once. If we're not able to see a non-academy tournament or game or high school game for whatever reason, and the prospect really wants to come to the University of Delaware and we just haven't been able to see them play, then we would certainly advise that it might be a good idea to hop in. But the ID camps can tend to be pretty expensive, so you have to be sensitive to that. So we do our best to really get out and see as many games as possible, so you know, not as many kids have to come.
Good stuff. Anybody else with that about prospect camps?
I think if you have a genuine interest in it, you should for sure attend, because there's sometimes those things I talked about earlier, the uncoachables, that you can see the competitiveness, all those pieces, it's easier to see in training. So if you get to actually get your hands on them and train them, then you get to come away with those, you know, an idea of what that looks like. And that might be enough to get you on the roster, and then you can build from there.
Yeah. And I think from our perspective at a Division III school, if we're really interested in a kid and we're knocking down his door, is it absolutely essential that he comes to one of our prospect camps so we can see him? Probably not. But for guys that are struggling to get on the radar, kind of like what John was saying, it is so important for them to put themselves in that environment where you can be coached by us, as Crystal was just saying, that even for you, just to get the idea of what it's like to play for that coach, what it's like to be on that campus, what it's like to play with even some of the players that are currently on the roster that sometimes come and help at prospect camps. It's even more so, I would think, for the kids to get an idea of what it would be like to be a college player in that program. So I think it's a huge benefit that colleges have really seen the value in. So, but at the other side of it is you got to be careful how many you're going to, because they obviously come with a cost. So do your research, find out who's going to be at these camps that you go to. Communicate with coaches before you go to the camp, just to say, hey, you know, I'm very interested in your school, very interested in, you know, you looking at me as a player. Love to chat with you after the camp about what I can do to get on your radar even more so. So I think that's all very important stuff. So excellent. I think we handled the viewer questions pretty well. I just have one more follow-up based on some of the responses that we've had here. Crystal, you mentioned, you know, the recruiting process on the girls' side of Division I being so sped up nowadays, freshmen, sophomores even, being put and verbally committing to Division I rosters. Can you elaborate kind of on the positives and negatives of this early recruiting process from your perspective? And then my follow-up to that for everybody is it too late as a junior or senior to really get noticed by a Division I school? Or as a junior and senior, how should you be turning your attention to other schools if you're not getting the interest that you wish? So, Crystal, I'll go to you for that first part.
I see very little positive. I think it's more just a product of the reason why it's happening is not because it's a good thing. It's just a product of it's happening, and no one knows how to slow it down. And there's always talks, but it's not going anywhere. So I wouldn't say I know very few positives. The negatives of it is you miss kids, and then you limit kids' opportunities that grow a little bit late or develop a little bit late, and maybe they don't have finances and don't want to take on a bunch of student loans, and so those kids they lose out on different things, which is a big deal. I think there's a lot of people that commit that don't know what they really want, that only think about one aspect of the game or of the school,
Yeah.
And then they realize that maybe that's not what they wanted as a 18-year-old, what they wanted as a 15-year-old, which just changes a lot. So that part's really difficult. And then I think sometimes things happen at the program, whether the coach changes their ideas about what they value over years, or whether the coach is even there 3 years away, and that you see a lot of transfers nowadays of kids that are unhappy, and that's not okay for me for that many kids to be unhappy and leaving.
Absolutely. Us as college coaches, I think we really, you say that the process is so sped up. We've got to do our homework on kids and keep doing our homework, even if kids freshman, sophomore year say they want in. I think the relationship just starts there. I think you've got to really evaluate, from their junior, senior year. John, let me pitch that to you a little bit. As juniors and seniors in the high school environment, how early are you guys wrapping up your recruiting classes? Is it too late as the start of your senior year, mid-senior year to get noticed by a Division I school?
No, I mean, to be honest, we have 7 players committed for next year, but we're still working on bringing 1 or 2 in. So I wouldn't say it's too late for seniors to get noticed. We tend to really start seriously recruiting players when they're juniors, getting them on campus for unofficial visits, trying to get them to see us play, and just meet with us so that we have an idea of who they are and they have an idea of who we are. But it takes us a few games to really, really know what we need for next year. Probably 4 or 5 games into our fall season, we might have recruited an excellent right back that didn't pan out. So, maybe now we need one. So things always change. People fall, out of love with the game and might walk away. It might not work out for whatever reason. And we also, being a mid-major, and really most Division I programs now on the men's side are recruiting overseas as well. And that process is always going, So juniors, we definitely start to get them on our radar, but we recruit seniors as well.
Excellent. Good insight there, John. Really appreciate that. Christina, from the Division III standpoint, give us a little bit of an idea of your recruiting timeline. When are you having kids commit? How late are you recruiting into senior year?
Yeah, I recruit all the way till the end, to be honest. For me, obviously we have commits who decide early that they want to attend our institution, but for us, Division III, where we are specifically, it all comes down to the financial aid piece. Being a private institution, it seems a little bit more costly, but then you have to put your FAFSA in, and your grants and your aids all come back. And so, honestly, I recruit all the way through May, and that sounds crazy enough to say, but sometimes, that's how long it takes them to make their decisions. And for me, I'm not a pressure kind of coach. I don't make players make decisions. I think it all comes on their own time, and so. For me, I recruit all the way through until my class is truly complete. And so that can be anywhere from beginning of August, where we get a couple decisions made, and then it can be all the way through May. So the timeline is lengthy for me, absolutely.
Excellent. Thanks, Christina. I think we've done a good job with that. Anybody else with anything to chime in for the good of the cause? Fantastic. Again, it's been a pleasure having you guys here today. That's all the time we have. Again, thanks to the panel, John, Christina, Crystal. You guys were fantastic. I'm sure you guys have had a great experience with the 30 under 30 program, as I did last year. Be sure to check out, for our viewers, the NSCAA Summer Series, a trio of educational events being held this summer in the U.S. and Canada, with the Women's World Cup going on, obviously, in Canada this summer. Registration is now open for the NSCAA Cup Experience, High School Workshop and Showcase, and the 3rd Annual Summer Symposium. Visit nscaa.com for more information tonight. And again, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you at the next 30 under 30 live chat. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.